Hello again. I had to switch back to text-to-speech because I have a parrot who has learned how to speak English and he's been interrupting me every time I speak. If you prefer this over my actual voice, don't be afraid to let me know. Either way is fine by me. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the girls. When I was turning this from an AU to an original story, my very first concern was the kids. Both the Rowdy Ruffs and Power Puffs are very important to the AU story. So finding good replacements is very important to me. While yes, my characterization of the kids hasn't been exactly canonical. I am, however, very attached to both sets of kids. So this change was very hard on me. For simplicity's sake, I kept the same narrative set up for the story. A scientist has 3 superpowered daughters who deal with 3 superpowered boys who are quote-unquote evil. To be a bit tongue-in-cheek, I named their dad/creator Dr. Newtonium, his full name being Arthur Newtonium. More on him later. To reference the original a bit more subtly, I decided to name my girls after flowers. After all, Blossom and Buttercup are named after flowers themselves. So after thinking about it for a bit, I landed on Sunny, Rosie, and Clover. Once I decided on the names, their outfits were a big concern of mine. The Powerpuff Girls' dresses are simple and iconic. They also looked awfully familiar out of the context of the show. While I have no way of proving this, I believe McCracken may have used space-age fashion or futurism fashion when deciding on the girls' outfits. A lot of the show's aesthetics pull from a retro-futurism look. This is all to say, using this hypothesis, I decided to pull from the same type of fashion to find my girl's outfit. I played around with it quite a bit before I landed on this. This little lady is my replacement for Bubbles. Sunny Newtonium. As you can see, I did start out pretty close to the original Bubbles. Twin tail hair with the color blue. But then I thought about the fact her name is Sunny and thought I should base her design around her name. So I gave her yellow as her color. I also gave her cute little boots rather than Mary Jane shoes like the Powerpuffs have. I thought having boots would not only be more practical but fit the whole superhero look better. I also put some bike shorts on Sunny because she's fighting crime while wearing a dress. I'm not some weirdo that likes to draw 8-year-old little girls looking weird. Anyway, this is basically where I ended things back in 2024 before school caught up with me regarding Sunny's character. Then recently I came back to her character and here's where I ended up. This is basically a reference sheet with some notes to organize my thoughts. Down in this corner we have my order versions of Sunny. Here we have some of my references. Up here we have a 5-point turn. So the look of the girls, or the kids in general, has always been a reference to the run-of-the-mill girls, from the episode, Oops, I Did It Again. According to the wiki, the style of those girls was actually a look Craig was considering when looking at a possible redesign for the Powerpuff Girls. So that was something I tried to reference whenever I drew the boys and girls in my previous AU videos. So I ended up modeling the body shape more closely to that when working on the sketch for the 5-point turnaround. Which, for those of you unfamiliar, is important to have whenever doing any sort of animation or character design related work. Now, these rough sketches aren't perfect by any means, but they get the job done. When I was working on Sunny's turnaround, the amount of hair she has in the original drawings I did was simply too much. So I decided to merge her hair into a ponytail, which in my opinion looks even better than my original design for Sunny. I wanted to depict a very bright and cheery personality, not unlike Bubbles. Sunny in my mind is that popular girl in elementary school that is popular because she's nice to everyone. She also unironically invites everyone to her birthday parties because she honestly believes she's their friend. Down here in the corner I have some sketches sort of depicting her very excitable nature. Something I wanted to keep from the Bubbles model is that she loves animals. But rather than being tame about her love for animals, Sunny, unlike Bubbles, goes out of her way to find and befriend all sorts of animals. Bears, monsters, snakes. If it's got a way to be pet, Sunny wants to pet it. I thought that would be a great personality to depict because I do see a lot of little girls with that sort of personality. Something I want to do with all 3 of my girls is to show different archetypes that aren't necessarily typical of modern little girls. Overall, Sunny is a little ray of sunshine that loves her family, her friends, and helping people. Rosie was the next of my blooming melody girls that I designed. She's also one of the hardest, unlike Sunny where I had a pretty good idea of where to go and what to do. Or who to make Rosie out to be. I was a little lost. There's a need in my mind for a smart girl character. That's Blossom's role in the Powerpuff Girls and Rosie needs to meet that. So how do I adjust things? Well, in the original show it doesn't really show Blossom doing much regarding academics or smart things outside of school. I mean, she's 3 in that show, so I guess that's understandable. But I want my girls to be fully fleshed out. I also want them to be a depiction of what children look like when they enjoy being superheroes and are properly supported. So I thought about it and played around with it, and I ended up with like a rose gold sort of color association for Rosie. I knew I wanted to give her glasses. The best quick hand after all to show a smart character is glasses. I played around with her hair a bit before ending up on this rough-looking ponytail. I wanted Rosie to be smart and not care as much about how her hair looks as maybe Sunny or Clover. Rosie would much rather be in the lab working on her projects with her dad than being in front of a mirror. So I decided to pull from Dexter's lab and give Rosie some lab gloves along with glasses. I ended up dropping the bow I had as it worked better without it. I ended up doing a couple of strands of hair to mimic a bow or bunny ears, and I gave Rosie a robot rabbit named Artemia, which is the name of a famous female general. Basically, Rosie's whole thing is she likes being a superhero and likes the challenge of figuring out how to beat the bad guys. It's all like a puzzle to her. While she does have powers just like her sisters, depending on who she's fighting, she may straight up refuse to use them in order to figure out how to beat someone without them. She, like Blossom, is very prideful in who she is. She's very logically minded, and she's constantly thinking of fail-safes and plans to beat bad guys or protect her family. Out of all 3 of the girls, Rosie is the closest to Arthur and actually looks a little bit like him. The 2 of them often have to be pulled out of the lab by Sunny and Clover to remember to eat whenever they get going on a project together. While yes, Arthur mostly specializes in bioengineering, because of Rosie's influence he's learned about programming and computer sciences to bond with her over her projects. Down here in the corner I have some personality sketches kind of showing how Rosie acts and her relationship with Artie. Out of all 3 of the girls, Rosie has the most stuffed animals, and yes, all of them have some sort of robotics in them implemented in them by Rosie herself. But Artie is the most advanced out of all of Rosie's projects and her favorite. Clover was the most straightforward out of all the girls and honestly the most visually close too. I pushed Clover's hair back and gave her different eyebrows and some fingerless gloves. Unlike her sisters, her hair is shorter, making her even more visually similar to Buttercup. But despite the similarities in terms of looks, Clover is actually the most different in terms of personality. Clover's big thing is she likes plants. At the Newtonium estate/home there's a greenhouse, and that's where Clover spends most of her time. Despite her quiet and calming nature, she is not friendly or as kind as her sister Sunny. Clover does not like many people outside of family and does not like crowded places. She's more of a homebody. But she does enjoy being a superhero, mostly because she's not expected to talk since her sisters typically take over of her. There's also a slight height difference between the girls. So Rosie is the shortest, Clover is the tallest, and Sunny is technically somewhere in the middle. Though her hair makes her look even taller than her sisters. So all in all, this is where I am with my blooming melody girls. Let me know what you guys think. I'll see you in the next video where I talk about their dad.